Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. How do I pronounce your name?
It's Ermelyn.
Ermelyn, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for doing this class.
Yes, I'm excited. It's going to be very casual, but a lot of it is really about deepening our relationship with this essence of the plant that is so ethereal and spiritual. It's
Mhm.
just amazing work.
Great. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, we will wait for the rest to show up, but it is recording so that those that showed interest will be sent the video. What I am doing is going to start with a little meditation. Do you have your essential
Mhm.
oils with you? One?
No, because we're in the middle of redoing our house. And
Mhm.
so I'm up in the construction part because that's where I can get the internet the best. So everything is like downstairs. I didn't know I was supposed to bring essential oils.
That's okay. If you want to go get it, we won't start for another 5 minutes or so.
Hey, is there any particular ones you're going to be working with, or doesn't it matter which ones I bring?
Of course, it'll depend on what you have, but if you have something that's great for the root chakra, that might be appropriate
Okay.
today.
Okay. I will be right back then.
Okay. Hi, Cindy. I was just telling Ermelyn to go get an essential oil so that we can start it off with a meditation. And I had forgotten to put that on my post. Do you have any you want to go get?
Yeah, I'll go get one.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi. Is that Zusha? Hey, Debbie.
It's actually Lawrence. That's my daughter's Zoom.
Okay. I want to make sure. Lawrence Amar, right? I've seen your posts on the, no, I just spelled it wrong. Hold on. I know what it is. Is that correct? Okay. So Lawrence and Debbie, I was just telling Cindy and Ermelyn to have an essential oil with you because we will start with a meditation. Great. And actually, I was realizing this is probably why Sage has a meditation kind of halfway through the Zoom, because obviously people arrive, you know, consistently until about halfway. So I may just be flexible and actually start off with introductions, and then we'll go into the meditation. But generally, I really do like to start off with at least coming into this space together. So let's just put our feet on the floor, spine nice and erect, and just start to become aware of your breath. Maybe put your one hand on your heart and one hand right where your womb is, below your navel, about 3 inches below. You can be looking out into some plants or the sky, or just gently allow your eyes to close. But we're really just coming into the present space with full attention, full awareness, with gratitude in our hearts for the time to be together, asking that our open hearts will attract and we welcome the plant spirits that are loving to be with us today, to guide us as we deepen our relationship with this ethereal spiritual part of the plant kingdom. Take a few moments to feel into the presence of the plant spirits that we have invited into our presence. You can even go ahead and, according to what essential oil you have with you, invite that specific plant to be with us today. And for me, I'm inviting the spirit of black spruce, beautiful, ancient grandfather tree, to be in our presence. Always asking what we can do for them. Acknowledging that we are just a small part of the universe. That lives and drums to this heartbeat that is ever flowing and so ancient, beyond our comprehension. Allow your hands to float up to your heart center. Bow your heads. And when you're ready, just open your eyes. Coming into this space with connected hearts. Thank you for taking the time today. I'm so excited to share with you all that you're curious about. Really, this is a very casual call. I want to, really find out what you're curious about so I can make sure to address it. And because I know most of us are beyond the basics, right? And as we learn from each other's curiosity, we deepen our, relationship with the plants together. So it's going to be very interactive, and I'm going to possibly start the meditation with the essential oils around 20-minute mark of the hour, so that we'll give some time just in case there's still people coming in. First of all, I'll just introduce myself. So our common connection is Sage, and I love her dearly. She and I met magically about 2 years ago on Oahu in Hawaii, where I live. And on that night, we discovered that we were reading the same book. She had that book in her handbag, and I was telling her I was reading it. We manifested gifts from this crystal shop that we were both attending the opening ceremony for. I had just met her, and I was telling her, okay, look, I know this amethyst. It's a huge amethyst cave. I know it's mine. Watch me. So I totally dived deep into it, and they called, my husband's name, but I had envisioned it in my house. And anyway, so I got that, and she was right next to me. She's like, oh, if you can do that, if I win the next prize, and the next prize was a piece of art, and she had been wanting to really get back into painting more, and her desire was to be shown a sign, and she won the painting right next after me. So, and then we also figured out that we had a friend in common, besides the friend that introduced us, that had told me a couple of months ago that I should take a course, and I just didn't even make the connection. But anyway, so I ended up taking her course. But we just knew that we had this soul connection, and yeah. So anyway, she is near and dear to me, even though we've just met, but I feel like I've known her for lifetimes. So who I am in the formal world, I'm a licensed spiritual healer. I'm a yoga teacher. I am trained in life coaching. I'm really deepening my spiritual gifts and connection to the unseen loving beings of this world and beyond. I use, I guess, my desire to be of difference in this world. I use that desire to really live my purpose. So I'm just here to be of service. So I have really been drawn to the world of plants since I was little. I remember my first meditation with plants was when I, of course, it was my dad that told me to go stand with the plants, and he had read somewhere that, well, green is really good for your eyes. And I had just started wearing glasses, and I was wearing glasses from when I was 10 years old. So anyway, I remember taking off my glasses and standing right next to the plant and just staring at it and having this profound sort of like wordless communication. And of course, as things goes, it was not a memory that I remembered, and it had just, come back to me, years ago, but only recently that it all started to kind of make sense. But then my desire to study more about environmental sustainability led me down a path to really working with the plants on the ground, and more of that relationship instead of being up on a, elephant, what do you call it? The ivory tower, right? Looking down on people and saying, hey, look, the policy to preserve the earth is like this, or whatever. So anyway, that's me. I really started getting into essential oils when I was 18. I was in London and browsing Camden Market and bought my first essential oil bottle, which quickly turned rancid, and I didn't even know, which I learned later. So important to, of course, purchase from honorable suppliers and ones with integrity that are growing with love and distilling with love, and without diluting it or extending it for the profits, So went through a lot of different brands until I really connected with one that resonated with me, and the high vibration. So a lot of it has to do for me is that knowing that, you know, the plants love us, and infusing myself with that love through the essential oils just brings this sense of real love and support and safety. And our physiology is also such that our sense of smell goes into our amygdala and our limbic system that stores our emotions and our trauma. And would you agree, a lot of health and wellness in this modern world is marketed to us like a battle. I'm battling my willpower. I am going to overcome this. I am, you know, going to find ways to make sure I stick to my schedule, because I am not to be trusted, right? So that I think Sage has gone through that hero model and scientific model. And so this idea for me of really tapping into that vibrational high frequency of essential oils is a bridge between our subconscious mind and our conscious mind. When we are slowly and surely nourished by these amazingly complex compounds that we won't even try to fathom or understand, that it becomes this natural desire to be a participant in taking care and stewarding this planet Earth. It's been amazing how I've seen, and I said earlier, it's always a physical issue that brings us to, oh, what is the medicine in plants? What is the medicine in essential oils? Yet the transition I've seen from that to, wow, now I want to eat organic. Now I want to plant my own plants. Now I want to garden. Now I want to really infuse my body with non-toxic, so no chemicals, right? And just all really from the earth. It's been amazing. And so it's, to me, it's also a great introduction to, I would say, 85% of the world's population who are still very much mired in the modern way of life. A great way to really be of service to the earth by helping them switch their subconscious, almost reprogram it, so that they can become allies of the earth. And it's no longer a battle, and no longer us against them, and us against our bodies, or, you know. So that's what I wanted to say. And I want to go into the essential oils itself, but I want to hear from each of you. I'm going to write down your curiosity, your level of knowledge, and where your golden thread is pulling you, so I can help you get there. Who wants to go?
I'll go. My relationship with plants is very much connected to my grandfather, and to a period in my life after my son was born, when I started kind of urban organic, what I call urban organic gardening. Last year, I'm a little older than I look, and I many times had wanted to study herbs, and it just never really quite worked out. And when I was, a couple years ago, when I was 68, I was like, okay, it came up again for me, and I was like, okay, you're either doing it or you're not doing it in this lifetime. So I started looking around for a teacher and found Sage and did the apprenticeship in Vermont, the first year of the apprenticeship in Vermont. And I've been kind of tuning in a little bit to the online course. My work has mostly, I live in Boston, and my work has mostly been in nonprofits and community organizing and community groups. I'm really a beginner in essential oils. I haven't used them very much at all. But I've grown passion flowers several times, and in my climate, it's just the flower. There's no fruit. And I decided to do this with you because I wanted to capture some of the spirit of that plant. I resonate with it quite a bit.
Thank you, Debbie. And if you don't mind, I'll just sort of speak a little bit as each one speaks so we can have in the moment kind of conversation. So I wanted to speak to capturing the essence of passion flower, as you said. I believe that we can do that with the method of flower essences, as Sage has taught. And I wanted to go into a little bit about what distillation is to qualify something as an essential oil. There are flower essences like jasmine and rose, for instance, where it's really drawn out of the flowers through a process called enfleurage. And there is always a medium in which you put the flowers in, and it comes out into that medium. It's usually some kind of fat or oil. And then there is a process in which to separate that into its own essence. Now, with flowers and with personally making them, it is going to be most likely the floral water. And to know that we have the energy of the flower, you know, the really amazing calming, sedating qualities of passion flower is used with intention, in that is almost enough in a way. Now, when we have the real concentrated essential oils, there, of course, it's very valuable. And so if there are jasmine oil, geranium, or rose that are pretty marketed for really cheap, you know, you start to wonder, first of all, the extraction quality could be from mineral oil or something more like hexane, which is not something you want. They are very valuable, and so most of the time just one drop in a carrier oil being a fatty oil like olive oil or almond oil, you know, let's say an ounce, is really enough to take us to that place of spiritual and emotional place. So I'm really talking more about emotional, mental, spiritual alignment, because there are a lot of physical aspects of it that are in the scientific literature, which we won't have time to go into today. So as we inhale it, you know, that is one drop is enough. And then it goes into the whole conversation many of us herbalists, not us herbalists, many of us herbal students have with regards to, well, you need so many tons of flowers to make one bottle of oil, and how is that, you know, first of all, ethical or sustainable? And so my, I guess, response to that is that we, just as in anything, we only really use what we need, and we are not advocating for purchasing. It's not a consumerism sort of marketing ploy, right? And so then it also then becomes, well, how easy it is for us to do that at home when we don't have tons and tons of it. So there's this dichotomy in terms of, can I do it by myself, and how industrial does it become? So to find a nice medium with asking the right questions of, you know, how do they do it? And how do they grow it? Do they grow it with love? Do they have pesticides? Because as you distill something, it becomes very concentrated, and pesticides itself becomes concentrated. So that's a little bit about the distillation of kind of enfleurage of flowers, and distillation of, you know, the tree, the bark, the twigs, the leaves, the seeds, the roots. They are usually steam distilled. And again, the questions here are, you know, what are they distilled in? If it's plastic, it's definitely not acceptable. And what temperature and for how long? So just the questions then here become, you know, are they paying attention to maybe the compounds that come out? Because for instance, there are certain different species of plants that are good for different things. And so, and sometimes also the length of time that you distill something will bring out other compounds. So those are the kinds of things that I am interested to know, that if I were to purchase something, that the expertise is there. Because while I am deepening my relationship with the plants through the essential oils, I'm also, in a way, maybe blending with it and making my own sort of diffuser blends. But I'm stopping short of actually, you know, purchasing the distiller and doing all of that, which is really interesting. Lots of people can do that and are studying that. I'm just saying that I probably don't have the technicality to do that, because some of the sophisticated machines to test is just, you know, beyond my means. But yeah, so thank you for being here, and hopefully with the others' questions, we get to learn more together. And if you have more questions after this, let me know. Thanks, Debbie. Cindy, yeah.
Yes, my name is Cindy, and I'm also a beginner in herbalism. My background is I'm a child life specialist is kind of my career. So I work in the hospital right now. I support emotional healing with children that experience trauma. And I've been doing that for 20 years. And through the course of that, I got my master's in applied healing arts from Thai Sophia. So it's the Chinese medicine model. So I have been exploring and incorporating that, and I'm certified, and I use Qigong as on a regular basis, which I love, and Reiki. So a little bit of different. I know that's Japanese. So I'm exploring, and I was brought to learn about herbalism through hearing about Sage's course. I actually I bought a book about green witchery through another professor at the school, and it had her in there, and that's how I found the school. So, and I'm just connected with it so much. And so when I saw your post about how you have essential oils to help with trauma, because that is kind of the path that I'd like to continue on, is to support not just as I'm learning through the meditations and exploring myself and my ancestry, and just the oppression, and so the trauma that has happened to all species and people. I would love to continue to grow in this field and provide service through that. So I'm really excited to learn more about how you work with trauma and what is helpful, and how the essential oils can be so helpful. So that's
Thank you. Yes, that really is the most powerful way that essential oils work with our brain is as it enters our olfactory system, our, I mentioned earlier, amygdala and limbic system, hippocampus is right there next to the olfactory nerves. And there's research showing that scent is possibly one of the only ways, they were very actually determined to say it is the only way that affects our subconscious, where we store our emotional trauma. And there are certain molecules in essential oils, one of them being sesquiterpenes, that are highly oxygenating to the brain. But in a chemical sense, what it's doing is that the receptors in our brain have gates. And what they have found is that the essential oils have the ability to attach to those receptor sites in a very matching way, which is almost miraculous, because it's almost like a key to a lock. And as it matches, it clicks it open, and then it allows that cell to, well, first it's sort of cleansing the receptor site. And as we learn more and more about emotional trauma and how it rewires our subconscious, what it's showing is that it's unwinding those programming and cleansing it of the, almost like the physical manifestation of that trauma, and allowing it to be released through, you know, the different pathways. And there are a lot of psychologists and psychologists mostly who are using, and therapists, essential oil therapy to help people move through those that programming, so that they are now still having the memory, but with no negative attachment and reaction to those memories. Now, it can be immediate, but it can also take effort and time. And one of the ways that it has been done is where you are inhaling the essential oil and just really focusing on where that memory triggers any sensations in your body, and you are feeling those sensations. And for many, many people, in just one session of that inhalation, that sensation starts to dissipate. And over time, and you know, some of the prescriptions are to do it at least 7 times a day for at least 3 months. But over time, most people with that intention start to feel different. It's, yeah. And it's interesting where it's also one of those things where many people don't actually realize, if they start using essential oils again for physical issues, or they just love the scent in their house and they're diffusing all the time, they don't realize it until it's brought to their attention. So I have a story like that. And I started using essential oils. Well, like I said, I've used essential oils for many, many years, you know, like the last 20 years. And yet, like 7 years ago, I used frankincense and a blend on my face because I was reacting to food allergies, and I had acne all over. So I was really stressed out. I lived in San Diego at that time, and I had young children. And before I knew it, well, before I was a road rage driver. And I tell friends that now, and they laugh and they're like, how is that even possible? But I was one of those that I would honk at you if you didn't move right in the split second when the light turned green. And I was so impatient on the road. But after a few months of using that on my face, I started to realize I was nicer to my kids. I wasn't yelling at them, and I wasn't that road rage driver anymore. And I didn't even like connect it. So it's one of those really subtle things And you start to make the connections later on. I was like, yeah, that's what it was. So of course, frankincense, again, is one of those really important essential oils for humankind because we've been using it for thousands of years. But part of that history also leads us to that grab, you know, cut. And so it's really important to make sure, again, with frankincense, that you're getting it from a reputable source. But that has been a powerful one for me. Yeah. And so with children, there have been like much quicker because it's not so entrenched in them. And yeah, and yet the ones that are seeking help, of course, are the ones that have really tragic type of things that happen to them. It's not just, oh, my mom yelled at me for, you know, eating a cookie, right? So it's so heartwarming to be like, just, you're not even telling them that you're using it for their problems. You're just massaging them, you know, you're just giving them love, and to see the change over time, it's just powerful. Yeah. Yeah, and so if you're interested, I can send you more like research on it, and it shows as a you know, a professional in that area, that would be really helpful for you. Yeah, thank you, Cindy. All right, Lawrence.
Yeah. So, well, I came to herbalism kind of in a winding path. I've always been interested in plants and flowers, and they always kind of bring me back to my childhood when I was born in Canada, but I grew up for about 7 years in Lebanon. And my grandparents were farmers. So, you know, we would go into the woods there, and I'd go with my grandma and my grandpa. We'd pick olives and grapes and just be, you know, out and about. Fast forward, I'm in Montreal and I closed my business. I owned a cafe, and in 2013, I closed my business, and I kind of went through this midlife crisis, and which led me to polarity therapy. I did a year of polarity therapy. And then I was like, oh, but you know, I have so many interests and I would like to combine these healing modalities. And I just felt like it was time to start giving to myself, because I had, you know, a lot of opportunity to give to others. And I felt at that stage that I was a little bit depleted, and I needed to resource and rejuvenate and continue on a healing path. And that actually led me to take a few courses with evolutionary herbalism, because I am also interested in astrology. So that was a really great introduction. I did elemental herbalism and a little like intro to astro herbalism. And then I found sage, and I was like, oh my God, you know, it just opened up this whole possibility of, which I hope I can do next year, is do the course on the land. And yeah, so I'm also new to herbalism since about a few months prior to joining the course with Sage. But essential oils have played a very important part also in my life. Like, I use them for a lot of things, but I'm also very conscious. I've stopped diffusing them. But what I do is, instead of buying harmful chemicals for, let's say, mopping, I use essential oils to mop with water. And I've also replaced perfume. So I kind of I experiment with oils to make body oils, to use those instead of perfumes. But yeah, the plants and the flowers are just like loves of my life. So I'm so happy to be on this journey, and just to keep discovering and hopefully soon connecting more with the real living plants. That's basically so I'm hoping to move to the countryside and within the next 2 years. So that's a little bit about my story.
Thank you, Lawrence. I'm curious. when you said I've stopped diffusing. So tell me more about that.
Well, it's also like you've been mentioning, like I've just started realizing that sometimes we're just overusing things without any consciousness. We're just thinking, oh, you know, I like this, so I'm going to get it. Oh, I like this, so I'm going to use it. And I've just started, you know, with a lot of other things, like we're trying to become vegan. So we're rationing, you know, a lot of organic, you know, meats, trying to bring it down. We're rationing with eggs. We're trying to just live a more conscious life in general. And that's, you know, like the other thing with crystals and with, you know, Palo Santo or sage or all these things that, you know, yes, they're beautiful, but at the same time, you know, like it's not limitless. So just trying to be more conscious about all of that, and it feels better.
Okay, do whatever feels good for you. I want to speak a little bit about that in terms of our role as stewards of the earth, and how we, I guess, continue to have a relationship with plants without feeling guilty and feeling good about it. And I like the fact that you found something where you could cut down, but then you're also saying, well, but I'm still using it to mop my floors, and it's still getting into your environment. Because the worst thing for the world is for us to say, no more, I'm not using any, and I'm going to let you regenerate, right? I think the message really hit home to me with Braiding Sweetgrass in Robin Wall Kimmerer's book, where she talks about the sweetgrass, that patch that two different tribes had different reactions to. One was to let it sit on its own so that they don't harvest anymore, in, of course, very noble intentions of caring for it. The other tribe decided to harvest responsibly with intention, and they saw that that patch of sweetgrass thrived and was happy, and was actually, the other patch that was left alone actually eventually died out. Now, that lesson to me really aligns with my integrity, because I have always felt almost like, oh, I don't want to abandon you. I don't want to say, it's sort of like saying to a good friend, you know, I'm going to stop calling you and I'm going to stop talking to you now because I think, you know, you need some quiet time. You know, that kind of relationship. And it feels right to me. So in the spectrum of using too much and not using at all, I like to be, not say in the middle, but it's sort of like a third way, the way of respect, reverence, and anytime we use the essential oils, whether in a diffuser or any of that, to know that there is this reciprocal relationship that is entering me, as well as the space, as well as my plants, as well as my children. The other thing I was going to say to Cindy was that, you know, so even if we're not telling the children we're doing this for their emotional benefit, having a diffuser, as soon as someone walks into that space, their spirits are lifted. And that is what we want to, we want for all of us, is our spirits to be lifted, to become more in harmony with our natural vibratory state of high frequency, that then allows us to be the light that we all want to be, given that we are studying herbalism. So I just wanted to speak a little bit about that. And the other thing I wanted to share with you too is this quote by Rudolf Steiner. And he says, and I love this, "And so the fragrances of heaven come to us through the plants. And when you learning about astrology and herbalism, Rudolf Steiner is a very influential visionary in that history of our short history, right, of modern thought. So I don't know if you came across him in your studies, Lawrence.
No, not yet. The Astro mini introductory class I did was pretty short, but I will be starting in October. I'm going for the alchemical program as well. It's a year-long course with him, with evolutionary herbalism alongside Gaia, because I do want to get deeper into the astro herbalism, since I'm also studying astrology very like at a very beginner level, but I've always been fascinated by the plants and astrology, and just how the planets are reflected in the flowers and in the plants. So like, for instance, after I took that class, I started meditating on oh gosh, I forget the name now, the yellow flower. How come I forget the name? Pissenlit. I have it in French, but I forget the name in English. You know the yellow flower that comes out in the spring? Dandelion. I remember the name in French, but I forget it in English. And I was meditating on it because we went up walking up the mountain, my daughter and I was realizing there were some flowers still intact and other flowers turning into seeds. And I said, oh my God, this is like a sun and moon plant, because when it's in flower, it looks like the sun, and it's Leo, it's a fire, fire plant. But then when it's in seed, it looks like the full moon and the stars. So it was just like, I said, this is amazing. So yeah, so I'm really looking forward to getting deeper into that. But it's a lot, it's obviously a journey of love, because there's so much to learn and to discover, and yeah, it's fascinating.
It is. And I am of the same, where I always want to learn more and more and more, and I've got all these books around me, and I am frequently reminded to just come back and sit with the plant, and that's all we need to do. But my mind just wants to learn everything. Like right here, I have all these books and all these books in there and under there. But I did want to speak a little bit about that very briefly. I find it fascinating, Rudolf Steiner's theory. And he said many things that have panned out in the scientific world, so I wouldn't be surprised. But he was talking about violet and how it's receiving, again, the energy from Mercury, which gives its fragrance. And then he compared it to, I may not pronounce it properly, asafoetida. It's a spice used in Ayurvedic cooking, and it has a very pungent, strange scent. And he compared it to that, saying that's from Saturn. And he says what we don't realize is that the plant kingdom is sort of like the universe's sense organs. And it is manifested the way it is because of its sensing of the elements. And in a way, it kind of makes sense, right? The energetic, I guess, manifestation of a certain plant is because of the way it used the sun's energy and the soil's energy and the rays of, and the air and all of that. So, but anyway, he talks about flowers being the nose of the universe, or the nose of God, where it's expressing itself as its fragrance because it's inhaling that from the universe. It's just fascinating. Anyway, let's get out
Can,
oil.
which Steiner book is this from?
Okay. About it more in agriculture, maybe, but this one was spiritual ecology. And about how the sense organs of the earth.
Thanks.
So yeah, any of the literature resources I can post for you guys. Yeah. Let's just sit with an essential oil, whatever you have with you. So I like to put a drop on my left palm. The left palm side of the body is the receiving side of our, you know, and one drop is sometimes becomes two, but it's always enough. And so I'm choosing black spruce today as a representation of the energy. This amazing tree that's rooted so deep into the ground and reaching so high up into the sky. I take my right hand then and I circle it around 3 times clockwise, as clockwise is the way the energy spins in our chakras, in our DNA. And then I take it up to my face, and it can be as far away as comfortable to you or as close. And then I start to shut my eyes. And as I allow the scent to enter, I get into this real space of gratitude. I invite the energy of the enter me. And once I start to feel a real connection, synergistic, harmonious sense of being one with the scent, maybe I ask a question. Maybe the question is what I can do for the plant, what I can do today that will be of benefit to all, or a very specific question you have, or maybe just a simple, what is your message for me today? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? The most important thing is to listen. in your mind, in your body. And just pay attention to what you feel, acknowledge it. And with sense, you may have pop up for you into your conscious mind. There's no need to analyze or judge it. Just allow it to play its movie reel. You can always put some of the oil on the crown of your head, on your heart center, even by your pubic bone. Again, bringing yourself back to gratitude for this plant that exists in nature somewhere around the world, but is present right here with you now in your living room. Knowing that here is all of its community scattered around the earth, sending prayers and blessings to abundance, of this plant. And when you're ready, take your time. Allow your hands to float to your heart center, sealing in this time you had together with your chosen plant. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I would love to hear from you what oil you chose, what you felt, any memories that came up for you, any further thoughts on what we are discussing here.
I chose rosemary, and I just felt her, clearing. I've been having a little kind of cough, and I've always had a bit of issues with my throat, and I just felt her gently clearing everything and going down to my heart, and a memory of my grandmother came. And that's a lot of herbs are related to my grandmother or my grandfather. And I just felt this almost this embrace, this beautiful embrace.
That's beautiful. I feel this sense of overwhelming work right now across the world on our throat. And each and every one of us finding our empowered voice is so important, and is going to contribute to the benefit of all. So I'm happy to hear that helped you clear that. How about Cindy or Debbie?
Hi. So I used geranium rose, and I felt it was very warm, an just an overwhelming sense of just love. It was just, I can't even, it's hard to describe the feeling, and an opening like in my heart. Yeah, it's just very loving and very opening, but at the same time, just kind of embracing. So yeah, that was what I was.
I lost the last sentence you said.
Oh, I'm sorry. So it was very embracing, an overwhelming sense of just love and just like enveloping, like embracing.
Beautiful. Yes. Most of the flowers are very heart opening, as you can imagine. Rose, geranium, jasmine, neroli, they're all really heart opening. Yeah, beautiful. And isn't it such an amazing way of allowing, say, all these people now stuck in their homes with no access to the outdoors, or in condos and apartments where they can't walk out at all, to allow them to bring this love instantaneously into their presence. And, and that too is important, right? So many of us now have this desire, Lawrence, to move into the country because we realized, wow, what happens if we are locked down? What happens if we're in an apartment where we have no access to nature? And unfortunately, or fortunately, some of us can do it and some of us can't, right? Just pick up and say, I want to go into the country. So having this ability to bless people's lives with nature indoors, I find it just powerful beyond measure. Yeah. Oh, Debbie, what about you? Wait, you're muted.
It was very negative for me. I
Ooh,
used
tell me.
eucalyptus. I have a very heightened sense of smell sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I held it like here, like maybe 8 inches from my face. And it was so strong, it like gave me an instant headache.
My first question would be, where did you get eucalyptus? How long have you had it? Who distilled it?
Yeah, I think it smelled very chemical to me. I've used it in a diffuser before and it seemed okay, but I didn't realize that I would, need to have something. So I just used what came with my diffuser, and it was very, I don't know, smelled kind of chemically to me. And I really I have a eucalyptus plant and I love the smell of it. And I've used it in, like soaps and stuff fine. So.
Yes, yeah. And it is unfortunate. And actually it is a good, I don't want to say lesson, but it's a good exercise to really use the essential oil on your hand and breathe it in, because then you know what quality it is you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is, yes, there are some essential oils that we would have an initial reaction to. One, it could be an emotional issue that is related to that scent. Two, it could
I
be...
have that with frankincense quite a bit.
Yes. Is it because were you brought up Catholic?
Jewish.
Jewish? Okay.
But I have a lot of connection, and I've had a lot of, in Portuguese it's called miração, like visioning. It's sort of like visioning around the Inquisition, and I think it's connected to that, the frankincense. I have a really, like, I'm just like, ugh, as soon as I smell it.
Yeah. Wow.
But this didn't, this felt more like chemically than emotional.
Yeah. And that's where it's important to make sure we're getting good quality ones. And eucalyptus is not a very expensive essential oil. Purchase one that we may think is, oh, they're too expensive, but it's quality, right? But what I did want to say about that is that, and third, yes, chemical. So if we're talking about the emotional response to essential oils, and the memories associated with it, so Cindy, what I would propose is putting that away for a while and addressing other parts of the emotional center through different essential oils. And what I've discovered is that over time, and this could be 2, 3, 4, 5 years, the reaction to that initial essential oil is no longer as violent or negative. And the truth is, it is bringing up something, mostly probably past lives. And there are many things that take us to undesirable events that here is also where breathing in different essential oils helps us to move through that and to heal that, because past lives work and ancestral work, do require emotional sort of alignment. Yeah. So
it felt very physical. It was like,
thank you for
right
sharing
here. Yeah.
The frankincense?
No,
what are you talking about? The eucalyptus?
The eucalyptus, it felt like right here,
Okay.
like very specific physical place. The frankincense I've dealt with over the years, and I understand kind of what that's about a little more.
Yes. Yeah. I think the eucalyptus you are saying, and I think your instinct is probably correct, is that it's more chemical than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually am very much about fragrance free. And so anything that says natural fragrances or fragrances in any of our home products or our lotions or our facial, they are almost always synthetic. And so I cannot deal with any of that. I get instant headaches. If I sit next to someone in a theater or a show that's wearing heavy perfume, I'm the one who's like, moving away, far away, because I really can't stand that. But however, fragrance is our natural instinct. The sense of smell, they say, is the first sense we get that even before our brain developed. And so much connected to our breath as well. When we come into this world, the breath is our first intake. And as we leave, the breath is what's last to leave. And so they say scent is also the last scent to leave our body. And we've done, I have personally have not done it, but I have friends who have really helped the transition into the death transition becomes this beautiful honoring ceremony with essential oils. And really helps the person who's going through it to feel supported and loved and in the company of, spirits. So it's 10:10, and I was wondering if you feel complete for this casual conversation around essential oils.
Yes, I was just wondering if it would be possible maybe to give us recommendations of places where you source your essential oils, because I'm also always looking to make sure that they're made with love and integrity and responsibly. I mean, at the moment I'm using Divine Essence. That's what I got from the health food store here in Montreal, but I would love to know also, because I mean, I do love using essential oils, like I said, as well. Sometimes they're a way for me to connect with my ancestors. Like for me, frankincense, for example, is something that reminds me of my grandmother, of her praying, of her bringing me to church when I was young. So every time I want to just feel like held by her, I just kind of use that. So I think it's a way to stay close to my family, but also just to kind of fill our home, our space when I mop or when I meditate, just with nature, like you said, bringing in nature, bringing in the plants when we can't have access to them, especially in the winters that we have here in Canada, 6 months of the year. So it really helps to feel that connection within our home. Yeah.
I want to give you my evolution. So very quickly, when I was 18, I bought from vendors that in Camden Market, and then there was the Body Shop that was all over. I grew up in Malaysia, by the way, so it's
Oh my-
a lot. And then things like that. And then it was, I started going to natural food stores, and then I would get those there. And then I went from Now to Oracacia. And then I started being a little more discerning, and I researched a little more, and I found Floracopia, which Sage really likes. And then I also started to realize, well, there are some, I guess, homegrown distillation that is grown with love and all of that, and the intention is really pure. And then I started using other sort of like corporate brands, and finally I ended up, and I am, in all full disclosure, using only one brand now that I love. But all of that, and that's Young Living Essential Oils, because the vibration of that has really spoken to my soul. And through all my evolution, that was the only one that really connected me to the spirits. So the rest were all like physical. Now, that's not saying that you couldn't find, like you said, in Montreal, and your body reacts and responds well to it. And that's, I guess, what you can use as a gauge. While I tend to use it more professionally, as well as my own connection to spirit, I want to be sure that I actually can visit the farms, and I have, and I want to make sure that they're stewards of the earth and they're not just, harvesting indiscriminately. So all those questions I asked, and as you are researching suppliers, there are certain criteria, some do this, some do that, and I've gone through all the research. So if you want, I can send you a little chart of all the suppliers out there and XXX of what they do and what they don't do. And,
Thank you. That would be amazing.
In that way. Yeah.
I wanted to ask a question about trees and using essences from trees. I have a very long relationship with various trees, and so you can use the bark. Is that Is that what I heard you say before? Could you talk a little bit about using tree essence?
Yes. So what we do when it's our own collection and harvesting is we get the resin. You know, in Sage's class, we are going to the tree and seeing maybe some resin that's leaked out, and we take that and we, as we reverently use it in our altar, we burn it, the scent comes up, and that's sacred smoke. Now, I do that, but I also love the resin that has been distilled into essential oil, so that I can actually take it into my body, inhale it without these are resin, and the way to ensure that the tree is always flourishing, and some of the trees that produce these frankincense essential oils are, you know, hundreds of years old, and they're continually producing when they're taken care of and they're not overly cut, right? So even copaiba, it's sort of like almost like a rubber tree where the resin is taken out and then it's distilled. Now, the other trees, like evergreen trees, which also they have resin, but this resin is actually within all parts of the tree. And most of the time when they're distilling and getting the essential oil, you want to make sure that whoever it is you're distilling from understands, you know, not to cut down 100-year-old trees, right? So it's really about taking the seeds from these amazing grandmother, grandfather trees, growing them so that the trees are still around, but you're growing this new set of trees that are especially for distillation, and they are distilled, you know, I would say between 7 and 10 years old, and all of it is distilled. Can you all still hear me, or are you frozen? Okay.
Lost you for a minute.
Okay, so I was just saying that, so it is growing from the seed, tending to the trees. The older trees are still left alone, and then you're distilling all of the tree. So the black spruce, for instance, that I chose today, it's all of the tree that's being distilled. Another way is important because where I am is Oahu. You bring up? Okay, I'm going to open the door so that maybe the Wi-Fi. Can you hear me?
Now, but that whole last part was gone.
Okay, I was gonna go. Did you hear about the tree and planting it and distilling it?
Yeah.
Okay, so now there are different trees. So now I'm going to talk about sandalwood, and I said it was important. You've heard of the Hawaiian sandalwood, and the Chinese loved sandalwood. So as I said, in many traditions, they've used incense and essential oils, and the Egyptians as well. So they actually, Honolulu is, in Chinese, it's known as Sandalwood Mountain. And they decimated it, you know, because they traded for it, and the Hawaiian royalty really enjoyed the riches that came from the trading, and so actually made a tax on all the men to collect sandalwood so that they can trade it to China. And it became harder and harder to collect the sandalwood trees because they were higher and higher up in the mountains. And it was such hard work that and this is the story, that these citizens of Hawaii decided to cut all the sandalwood down and kill them all and say, no more sandalwood, can't do this job for you anymore. So it's totally heartbreaking. So there's, for instance, this Hawaiian sandalwood reforestation project on the Big Island. And that is where a lot of essential oils of the Hawaiian sandalwood comes from. But it's not what you think. It's not about, because sandalwood only is best distilled from a dead and dying and rotting tree. Are in the forest, and by the way, they are parasites, so they are grown with other Hawaiian trees next to it, and over time this sandalwood tree kind of eats up those other trees, but they're allowed to flourish. It's a forest, and when they are dying, they're allowed to die naturally after about 40 to 70 years, and then that's distilled. And that is the quality of the, for instance, sandalwood that you want. There are many, many out there that are taking young trees and distilling it, and it has a slight scent, but it's not even understanding that the essential oil is being produced in the tree towards the end of its life. I like to think of it as its ultimate gift to Earth and to humankind. In a scientific way, it's sort of like it's producing. This is helping it to almost heal itself. So anyway, that's sandalwood. And then I was going to mention Palo Santo. So Palo Santo is another amazingly decimated population because of all the burning of the Palo Santo sticks, right? And so this is cutting down young trees. So the Palo Santo tree, actually, when you distill it, it is many, many years old, died naturally, and at least 2 to 5 years rotting on the forest floor before the essential oil is at its peak, with the components that actually is that scent that we love, you know, and that cleansing spiritual part of the tree. So many different kinds of trees, Debbie. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So Lauren, Cindy, any last words, or do you feel complete? Yeah. Thank you all for coming. I will be posting a link to this recording on the group. And as I said, I'll send you, if you don't mind, I'll send you, I probably won't post it in the group. I don't want to hijack the group. Maybe I'll just send you a link
Okay.
to the answers to your questions.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your offering. Thank you so
Yeah.
much,
Thank you.
Leanne.
Have a great day, you guys. We'll see you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.